They told me to never look through door 12. They said the screams are not from anyone alive. The cameras glitch whenever it walks past. And the strangest rule? No matter what, never answer if your self calls from the hallway. When I first got the job, they didn't give me an address, just coordinates. Out in the middle of nowhere, buried beneath the frost-bitten soil of rural Wyoming, sat a nameless facility with no signs, no markings, and no trace on any government record. The recruiter only called it Site D06, but around the department, they had another name for it, the Well. And like a well, it went deep. I was ex-military, 5 years in intelligence, 2 in psychological operations. Nothing in my file screamed perfect candidate, but apparently that's what made me perfect. They said they needed someone used to seeing things they weren't supposed to, used to secrets, used to lying to themselves about what they'd seen. I thought I'd be guarding classified weapons or escorting rogue scientists. What I got was something much worse. The arrival a black SUV picked me up just outside of Casper, Wyoming. The driver wore no name tag, spoke no words, and had a barcode tattooed on his neck. He didn't acknowledge me once during the 4-hour drive through. Barren wasteland and desolate plains. No roads, no towns, just sheer nothing. Eventually, the SUV pulled to a stop before a patch of land that looked like every other square mile we had passed. I was about to ask if we were there when the ground below us rumbled. A perfect square of earth, camouflaged as dirt and grass, began to sink, revealing a freight elevator large enough to hold a semi-truck that we descended. For what felt like forever, rules orientation at the bottom, I was met by a woman in a gray uniform, sharp features, hair in a tight bun, and eyes like cut glass. She introduced herself only as Agent March. She handed me a laminated card titled Black Site D06, Orientation Rules for Night Personnel. It read, never stray from your scheduled route. If you hear scratching from inside a sealed room, ignore it. Door 12 is to remain locked at all times. Do not approach. Should you see a child in the hall, report immediately. Do not interact. If a light flickers 3 times in rapid succession, evacuate immediately and wait for the all clear. Do not respond to voices calling your name, especially if it's your own voice. Cameras in Sector B may show footage that doesn't match reality. Trust your own eyes. Do not attempt to use your phone. GPS is unreliable. No one enters sub-level 5 without level Omega clearance. If a door opens on its own to sub-level 5, run. At exactly 3:33 a.m., return to the main control room. You'll know why when it happens. There was a blank space under Rule 10. A space like they'd left room to add more. Or maybe they'd just run out of ways to say, "You're not safe." Tour of the damned Agent March didn't talk much. She showed me the various wings of the facility. There were 5 floors, levels 0 through 4. Level 0 housed security, control, storage, and personnel bunks. Level 1 was research and containment. Levels 2, 4. Well, she didn't take me there. Just said, "You're not cleared." We walked past labs with frosted windows. Occasionally, one would flicker, and for a second I swore I saw something twitching behind the glass. Not human, not animal, something in between. March ignored IT.I in the control room. A ring of monitors showed every hallway, every lab, every sealed chamber. One camera showed static. March quickly turned that one off and didn't explain. Before she left me to begin my shift, she turned back and said, "No matter what happens, at 3:33 a.m., come back to this room. No matter what you're seeing." Then she walked away, boots echoing down the steel hallway. First shift, 10 p.m. to 6 o'clock. Amph lights here hum in a low, unnatural frequency, like a heartbeat just under the surface. I sat watching the monitors for hours, making rounds every 30 minutes. The halls were quiet, too quiet. In a place this large, you expect sound. But there was no hum of machines, no air vents blowing, no voices, just dead silence. Until 1:14 a.m., Camera 7, Sector C movement. A tall shadow moved past the end of the hallway. It didn't trip the motion sensors. It had no discernible shape, just an outline. The feed glitched, and when it returned, the hallway was emptied at T:1:33 a.m. I began to hear tapping. I muted all the monitors. The tapping wasn't on the screens, it was outside the control room door. Slow, rhythmic taps, like fingernails on metal. Tap, Tap, tap. Then, a whisper. Please, let me out. I checked the hallway cam. No one. I opened the door just a crack and saw nothing. Just the long, empty corridor. Door 12 at 2:07 a.m. An alert flashed red on the screen. Unauthorized activity. Door 12. I had explicit instructions to stay away from that door. But orders or not, it was open. Just barely. Light flickered. From inside, I made my way down the hallway, flashlight in hand. As I approached door 12, I felt the temperature drop. My breath came out in white puffs. The metal handle was covered in condensation. Then I heard it. My own voice, whispering from inside. Saying things I never said. Saying things like, "You were supposed to die in the desert, weren't you? You don't belong in the living world." And then, "Let me in." I slammed the door shut. 3:33 amp control room. Clock hit 3 hours, 32 minutes, and 57 seconds. I bolted back. As I ran, the hallway lights began to flicker. Once, twice, 3 times. A low siren started to wail. Something was coming. I reached the control room just as the third flicker echoed down the corridor. The door auto-locked behind me. The monitors all went black, except one. It showed me, standing outside the control room door. Staring in. I looked at the camera above me. It was showing me inside, but the monitor said otherwise, and the version of me outside the door smiled and started to knock. 3 times. Then it whispered, "You're late." I saw myself on the camera feed, but I was standing in the control room. The other me started knocking and whispered through the door, "You're late." The knocking stopped. Silence fell like a shroud over the control room, so thick I could hear my own pulse hammering in my ears. The monitor still showed me, standing outside. Perfect copy, same uniform, same scar on my eyebrow, even the same exhausted slump in my shoulders. It smiled like it knew a joke I hadn't heard yet. Then, slowly, it turned and walked away, disappearing down the corridor outside the control room. I didn't follow. Hell no. I waited in silence until the system beeped. 3:34 a.m. The lights steadied. The monitors reset. The siren stopped. All screens showed normal again. Normal halls, empty labs, nothing out of place. Like the nightmare had been deleted. But one thing remained, the control room door. The real one. On its surface, 3 perfect fingerprints. Pressed in something too dark to be water. The debrief. I tried to report what I'd seen the next morning. Agent March listened, took notes, but didn't blink once. When I got to the part about the doppelganger, she stopped writing. She said, "That's Rule 11. I frowned. "There are only 10 rules." "Not anymore," she replied and slid a fresh card across the table. The laminated rules list had a new line scrawled in bold red, 11. If you see yourself outside the control room, do not engage. It is not you. It never was. Beneath that, do not open the door. Ever. Sector B, the feed that lied the next night, I was assigned a rotation near Sector B, a wing I hadn't been allowed into yet. It looked like the others, gray walls, flickering fluorescence. But there was an air in Sector B that felt off. Like gravity pressed a little harder here. Like the air was thicker. It wasn't just my imagination. Something was wrong. As I passed camera 14, I glanced at the feed on my tablet. It showed the hallway I was standing in, but it didn't match. On screen, the lights were off. The hallway was empty. I was not there. And worse, something else was. A long-limbed creature, spindly arms, backward knees, face blurred like a broken file, was crawling across the walls like a spider. I looked up. Nothing. I looked back down at the screen. It turned and looked right into the camera. Seconds later, my tablet sparked, shorted out, and died. I spun around, gun drawn. Still nothing in the hall. Just silence and a cold, creeping dread in my spine. Rule number 7 flashed in my mind. Cameras in Sector B may show footage that doesn't match reality. Trust your own eyes. But what if my eyes lied too? The Echo Room, 2:12 a.m. Patrol checkpoint. I reached a sealed chamber marked Echo Containment. This room wasn't on any map. Inside was a glass-walled room, empty except for a metal chair and mirror. Like an interrogation setup. I shouldn't have gone inside. I really shouldn't have. But something called me. As I stepped closer, I saw something move in the mirror. Not me. Not exactly. My reflection blinked too slowly. It moved a half second out of sync, and then it started talking, even though I hadn't opened my mouth. "You remember the cave, don't you?" It smiled. Where you left them? My hands trembled. I backed away. I hadn't told anyone about that mission. About the 3 men we'd left behind in that failed extraction. No one knew. Except me. Except whatever the hell this thing was. Suddenly, static buzzed through my comms. Return TO control. Immediate. 3:33 incoming. I checked my watch point 3:29 a.m. The race I ran like hell. Every hallway stretched longer than it should. Doors I swore were there before vanished. I turned corners that didn't end. The walls pulsed. Buzzed. Something chased me, whispering in my own voice from every direction. You're almost home. Just open the door. The lights flickered. Once, twice. I dove through the control room entrance just as the 3rd flicker hit. The door slammed shut behind me. I turned the lock and collapsed to the floor, panting. Then the whisper came again. From behind the monitors. We're already inside. The thing in the mirror this time. Every monitor didn't go black. They all showed me 20 versions. Walking 20 different halls. One sat in the mess hall, eating. One stood in front of door 12, smiling. One looked directly at the camera and mouthed the words, "Let us out." And then, the mirror behind me cracked that I turned. My reflection stared back, smiling. But I wasn't smiling that I blinked. It didn't. I stepped back. It stepped forward. And then, from behind the glass, it said, "We are what comes after rules stop matching." The second listie didn't sleep. That morning, I just stared at the new set of rules now waiting on the desk when I returned to my bunk. New paper, new typeface, red ink instead of black. New rules, black site D06, updated after incident 2312B, do not enter echo containment. Without mirror guards present. If your reflection continues to move after you've stopped, alert command. Doppelgangers now possess limited access to memory. Avoid direct eye contact. Sector B feed is not for live monitoring. Footage is 24 hours behind. Never watch more than 3 screens at once after 3:30 a.m. If you hear the phrase, "Let us out," from the monitors, evacuate. The U on the feed may be accurate. You may not. Reflections lie. Door 12 remains sealed. It must remain sealed. 3:33 a.m. is not the worst time. 11. The worst time is when the clocks all stop. At the bottom, written in jagged pen. There is no escape from yourself here. Only containment. That night, I woke up in the bunk room gasping for air. The walls pulsed. My breath fogged up even though the air wasn't cold. And then I saw it. On the other bunk. Lying peacefully, eyes closed was me, sleeping, breathing slowly. And when I touched the edge of the blanket, it opened its eyes. My eyes. And whispered, perfectly calm, "This is the real dream. You haven't woken up yet." I saw myself sleeping in the next bunk. And when I opened my eyes, it whispered, "You haven't woken up yet." But what really woke me was the sound of a child's laughter in a place where no children should exist. That I jolted upright, drenched in sweat. It was 9:47 p.m., just minutes before my shift. But I didn't move. I sat in my bunk and stared at the empty bed across from me, where hours ago I'd watched myself sleeping. It was gone now. No proof. Just the lingering fear that whatever I saw was still watching. Then I heard it again, soft, distant. The unmistakable sound of a child giggling. In black site D06, there are no children, no families, no visitors. So when you hear a child's laughter echoing from deep within the halls, there's only one possible conclusion. Something is wrong. Very wrong. I dressed fast, heart thudding, and headed for the security control room. Halfway there, I passed corridor 6, the longest hallway in level 1, right outside containment. It was sealed on both ends, rarely used. But tonight, it wasn't empty. The lights in the corridor flickered gently. A rolling silence hung in the air like fog. I peered into the dark stretch through the small glass pane in the blast door. There, at the far end, stood a small silhouette, bare feet, hospital gown, head tilted slightly to one side. A little girl. Rule number 4. If you see a child in the hall, report immediately. Do not interact. I backed away, but before I could radio it in, the lights went out. Total blackout. No emergency lights. No static from my earpiece. Just silence. Then, a whisper from the hallway. "Play with me." I ran. Not just away, but towards something. Toward light. Toward cameras. Toward anything real. The monitor looped when I reached the control room. The power flickered back to life. The monitors buzzed online, but instead of showing the facility live, every screen played the same footage on loop. A hallway. Corridor 6. The child, standing still, then walking slowly toward the camera, and then smiling. The loop would reset every 33 seconds that I tapped keys, cycled cameras, tried to regain real-time feed. Nothing worked, and then the screens all went black, except one. It showed a live feed of inside the control room. Except it was empty. Except that wasn't true. I was standing right there. The child appeared on that screen, standing behind me. I spun. Empty, but for a second, I could feel something, like small fingers brushing the air near the back of my neck. I turned again. Nothing. Then came a knock. 3 soft raps on the door to the hallway. I approached slowly. Another knock. Then another, followed by the words, "You left me behind, Daddy." I froze. My daughter died in 2018. Car crash. She was 3. She couldn't talk like that. My knees buckled, and I dropped to the floor. Tears blurred my vision. The voice behind the door whispered again, "Come find me in the mirror maze, Daddy. You said you would." The hidden level. I pulled myself up and accessed a terminal for floor schematics. Level 1, Level 2, Level 3. I tried every key code agent March had ever shown me. Nothing about a mirror maze until I found a file marked Level 3C, Experimental Containment. Hidden, encrypted, buried 3 levels down. The last person logged in, Dr. Caleb Marin. Status, deceased. Cause, unknown. Time of death, 3:33 a.m. I entered the override and received a final warning. You are entering a deprecated zone. Unauthorized presence will void all security protections. You proceed at your own risk. Descent into madness. I descended through an elevator shaft long thought sealed. Dust coated the walls. No signs, no sounds. Just a deep hum from somewhere far below. When the doors opened, I stepped into darkness. Then, mirrors. Endless mirrors. It wasn't just a maze. It was alive. Each mirror showed something different. Not me. Versions of me. Some bloody. Some smiling. One of them looked at me with dead eyes and whispered, "You can't save her. You never could." That's when the child's voice returned, echoing from the mirrors. "You left me to burn." The fire memory. I collapsed, crawling along the mirrored floor. My hands slid through grime, ash, and something slick. Blood. The mirrors lit up with fire. Flashbacks. A memory I'd buried. Not a car crash. A fire. A fire I caused. A mission in Kandahar. Classified. Wrong coordinates. Friendly fire. Civilians. A little girl. I remember now. She burned. And in that moment, all the mirrors around me cracked, shattered, fell inward. And in the shards, I saw her face, but not how she looked in life. How she looked now. Eyes hollow. Mouth too wide. Skin peeled away in sheets. Hair smoking, strands floating unnaturally in the still air. She was no longer asking for me to find her. She was hunting, running the maze I ran, heart beating like a drum, through endless broken corridors. Glass crunched beneath my boots. Whispers echoed from every angle. And then the lights turned red. The intercom hissed. Breach. Containment. Failure in Level 3C. Evacuate. Evacuate. But I was already too deep. I turned corner after corner, mirrors twisting around me. Some reflected impossible things. Me as an old man. Me hanging from the ceiling. Me with no eyes. One showed me smiling as I stabbed Agent March in the throat. And then, the worst one. It showed me, smiling peacefully, holding my daughter's burnt hand. And she was smiling too. The realization. I collapsed against a wall, sobbing, muttering apologies to no one. I couldn't tell if the guilt was a hallucination or implanted, but I felt it. Real, heavy, true. And in that moment, she appeared again, the child, just standing, still, watching, and in a voice now older, closer to my own, she said, "You made me. Now I'm part of you, and I can't ever leave." She walked toward me, and as I braced for impact, for claws or death or worse, she just touched my chest, gently, and whispered, "Now you'll never forget again," and vanished. The return. I don't remember how I got back to the elevator. I don't remember the ride up, but I do remember opening the control room door at 3:32 a.m. I made it by seconds, and the monitors came back to life. This time, they showed me standing in the mirror maze, still, staring into a shattered reflection, but I was here, right? The camera showed my reflection looking up into the lens, smiling and mouthing, "You're still down here. You just think you're not." The new set of rules, posted outside the control room the next day, Level 3C, is sealed indefinitely. If found open, initiate Black Protocol. Mirror-based anomalies are now considered sentient. Any staff reporting childlike hallucinations must undergo purging. If you hear a child laughing, do not investigate. Not all reflections return to normal after exposure. Personnel who visit Level 3C may no longer qualify as human. Burn victims appearing on monitors should not be acknowledged. If you see yourself holding hands with someone you lost, you're no longer you. At the bottom, one final note handwritten in red ink. We never had children at this facility. If you remember one, you brought it with you. They said never open door 12. They said 3:33 a.m. was the worst moment. But they lied, because something beneath the floor has started breathing. 3:30 a.m. 5 hours before the incident, the mirrors never stopped whispering, even after I returned. From Level 3C, even after they locked it down, sealed the maze behind 12 inches of steel and impossible containment foam, I could still hear them when I closed my eyes. Echoes of myself, of her, of the things I left behind, both in the world and in my head. And then the lights flickered. Once, twice, but not a third time. Just a low, grinding hum, like something massive was turning beneath the sight. A vibration that rattled my teeth. I went to the command console. An alert blinked silently. Motion detected. Sublevel 5. But that was impossible. Sublevel 5 doesn't exist. There are only 5 official levels in Black Site D06. Level 0, Operations Level 1, Containment Level 2, Experimental Level 3. Forbidden Level 4, Null, no access permitted, not even March. But now, beneath all that, a 6th floor, Sublevel 5, Code BLA. The coordinates flashed once, then disappeared. Agent March's secret eye found her in the surveillance archive. She looked paler than usual, eyes bloodshot, hands trembling slightly. Telltale signs of someone who'd heard the call too. I showed her the alert. She didn't deny it. Instead, she slid open a steel drawer behind her desk and handed me a worn leather folder, aged and cracked like a dead thing's skin. It had no label. Inside were exactly 3 things: a hand-drawn schematic of the original facility blueprints, marked Project Giorgionestenke, a photo dated 1965, showing a massive crater with hundreds of bodies at its edge, a cassette tape labeled "The Thing We Buried." She said nothing as she handed them over, just whispered, "If it's waking up, everything else we've done here won't matter." The tape: I found a cassette player in archives, plugged it in, pressed play. Static. Then a man's voice, shaky, broken. "If you're hearing this, then the seal has broken. God help you. We found it deep beneath the Western Plateau during Project Morningvale. We thought it was a sinkhole, but it breathed. We dropped cameras down, every single one fried at 100 meters. Then came the voices. It mimicked us. We tried concrete. Failed. We tried flooding. The water boiled. In the end, we built the site over it to keep watch. Do not open door 12. Door 12 is the pressure valve. Door 12 is the throat. And above all, never acknowledge the protocol beneath the floor." I rewound and played it again. And then a second voice on the tape. A child's voice. "I'm still down here, Daddy." The secret corridor. I used March's keycard, level Omega clearance. Only for COs. The system hesitated, then accepted. A panel in the control room wall hissed and slid open, revealing a narrow service tunnel, never listed in schematics. I followed it for over a mile. The air grew hot, wet, pulsing. At the end of the tunnel was a rusted stairwell spiraling down into blackness. No signs, no markings, just one word carved into the wall in crude, jagged letters. Mouth, Sublevel 5. Arrival. I don't know how far I descended. Maybe 20 stories. Maybe 200. The air vibrated like a heartbeat. And the walls, they weren't metal anymore. They were flesh, pulsing, damp, breathing. Veins throbbed beneath translucent membrane. Somewhere, far below, a voice murmured, "You were never meant to survive the descent." I reached a door, not steel, Not electronic. A stone arch, ancient and inscribed with symbols that made my eyes water, and beyond it, darkness, true darkness. The kind that eats light. The room that watches inside the chamber was a circle of chairs, 12 in total. Each held a body, fossilized into ash and bone. Their faces, not human, stretched, melted, like they had seen something not meant for minds. At the center of the circle, a hole, perfect, round, blacker than death. From that hole came whispers, not just voices, but rules, hundreds, thousands, some in English, some in other languages, some in static, all rules. Don't look at the third moon. Never sleep during the 9th hour. When the glass runs red, bite your tongue. Do not answer questions from the dark. Burn what breathes. The loudest. My head pounded, nose bleeding, time distorting. And then came the final whisper. You are the final rule. The event back in the control room. Red alerts now screamed across the monitors. Door 12. How? By whom? Why now? Cameras showed nothing. Just black. Then movement. A shape. Crawling up through door 12. Wrong-shaped arms. Bone cracking with every step. No eyes, just a jagged, grinning mouth. It was speaking. But not with sound, with rules. Every step it took, another new rule burned itself onto the screen. If your heartbeat stutters, sever your shadow. If you see stars beneath your feet, kneel. Do not touch the wrong sky. Do not touch yourself. Then the feeds all went dark. Final 333 amp lights across black site D06 failed in sequence. Boom, boom, boom. Every floor went dark. Personnel fled. Some screamed. Others clawed at their own eyes. Agent March activated the final failsafe, Scorched Earth Protocol. A 30-minute countdown to nuclear implosion. But the creature had already reached level 0. I saw it on the monitor. Tall, contorted, dripping rules from its body like ink. As it passed, words etched themselves into reality, twisting walls into impossible angles. March gave me one final command. Get to sublevel 5. Seal it from inside. Don't let it breathe. Another rule. Descent. Again I ran. Back into the tunnel. Down, down, down into the mouth. Every step was a whisper. We wrote the rules, but we forgot who taught us. When I reached the bottom, the chairs were empty. The hole was larger. The voices screamed. Seal US. Swallow US. Become US. I stepped forward. The last note I ever wrote, scrawled on a clipboard found later in the wreckage, said, I'm not the guard anymore. I'm the lock. The collapse when the nukes hit, they didn't leave a crater. They left a silence. Black site D06 was gone. Every camera feed terminated. Every biosignal dead, except one. My own, still transmitting, but it didn't match my vitals anymore. Too many heartbeats. Too many thoughts. The final protocol, declassified. If Black Site D06 ceases transmission, do not investigate. Do not recover personnel. Do not retrieve data. Assume all surviving consciousness is contaminated. Assume the rules have changed. Assume you are next.